They said beauty was skin deep, but no one warned you what it would cost to be seen. Welcome back, beautiful ones. This is Venus Through the Houses, and today we begin at the mirror, at the face the world meets first, at the house of identity, embodiment, and presence, the first house. So if you have this symbol in this house right here, I'm talking to you. Okay. If Venus lives here in your chart, or she's moving through this house by transit, you are here to heal the beauty wound and reclaim the power of your presence. But let's be clear, this is not about how you look. It's about the cost of being looked at. If you're just joining us, I invite you to begin with the episode 1, where we unmask the deeper truth about Venus, the stuff that they don't tell you. Not as a planet of prettiness, but as a field of magnetism. That's who she is. Because this isn't just about decoding Venus house by house. It's about reclaiming her. And now we begin that reclamation where Venus is most visible in the house that governs how you enter the world and how the world responds to your light. So let's talk a little bit about the beauty wound that Venus, the first house, carries. Okay. Now, they say the first house is of the self, it's about the self. But for those with Venus here, it often becomes the house of survival through performance. Because when Venus is in this first house, you don't just radiate beauty, you become defined by it. Probably from a young age, you were likely praised or pressured for how you looked, or how you moved, or how you dressed, or how you carried yourself, right? Your presence wasn't just yours. It became a projection screen for everyone else's expectation. And so begins the wound. Now, the beauty wound sounds something like this in life. If I'm not attractive, I'm invisible. If I'm not pleasing, I'm rejected. If I'm not perfect, I don't belong. This placement can create a deep confusion between authentic identity and aesthetic identity. You start shaping your expression based on the validation you receive. Smile more, speak softer, be agreeable, be attractive, but not too much. Be confident, but not too threatening. Be sensual, but don't own it too fully. And eventually, you lose track of who you are without an audience. Venus in the first house can be stunningly magnetic, but that magnetism often comes with a cost, where self worth is tied to being desired, where over identification with outer appearances, with hyper awareness of how others see you before you even know how to see yourself. Now, this can show up as constant self editing in social spaces. That sound familiar? Anxiety about visibility, even when you crave the visibility. That sound familiar? How about attracting attention that feels invasive or misaligned? And what about feeling like your worth is only skin deep, no matter how spiritual you are? But let's be honest, this isn't your fault. We live in a culture that rewards the performance of femininity and pushes its power or punishes his power, right? They push it away or they punish it. And when Venus is in the first house, you become both the stage and the spotlight. But here's the truth you were never told. Your beauty is not your currency. Your presence is not a performance. And you, my beautiful one, were never meant to trade identity for approval. Venus in the first house is not a sentence to be looked at. It's a call to be witnessed authentically, fully, and fiercely. So, before we move on, let me give you a little bit of example, real world examples of how this could play out. Okay. So maybe you were told you were pretty from the time you were very small. You were complimented on your smile, your hair, your style. But the moment you spoke up, the moment you asserted a boundary, the moment you shared a strong opinion and stood firm in your knowing, that praise turned sharp. Don't be so difficult. Why are you being so dramatic? Don't ruin the vibe. You were prettier when you were quiet. And in that moment, your nervous system learned a dangerous equation, which is to be beautiful equals to be accepted. To be bold equals be abandoned. So you learned to edit your presence, to lead with appearance, not opinion, to soften your edges so they'd keep loving you, even if it meant losing pieces of yourself. But Venus in the first house isn't here to be an ornament. She's here to be undeniable. And the healing begins when you stop contorting your identity to be seen and start letting your presence be the most radical kind of truth. Now, Venus in the first house, because it's your first house and it's you, it can be confusing to distinguish between visibility and value. Okay? That there's a distortion there. All right. So let's talk about that a little bit. With Venus in the first house, you are seen, but are you known? You might be the person everyone notices when you walk into a room. In fact, you probably are. But the real question is, do they see you or do they only see what you represent? This is the core distortion of Venus in the first house. You become hyper visible but undervalued. And after enough time performing the version of yourself that earns the most praise or attention, it gets harder and harder to tell where that performance ends and where your true self begins. So you may feel seen for your image, but not for your essence. You may also feel valued for your appearance, but not for your insights. You may also feel desired, but never really deeply understood. And that, my beautiful one, leaves a wound that's hard to explain. Because from the outside, you're lucky, you're blessed, you have it all. But inside, there's a haunting emptiness. Would they still want me if I took the mask off? If I stopped being charming, soft, or agreeable, would I still be enough? This confusion between visibility and value often leads to overgiving in relationships to prove your inner worth, shutting down your truth to protect the illusion. That's a really big familiar one, right? Building an identity around others' desires and not your own. And this isn't just social, it's energetic. Because when you conflate being desired with being valuable, you attract attention that matches the mask, not your soul. Okay? This is why it gets confusing. And then you start to feel overexposed but unseen, adored but misunderstood, held in high regard but not in deep connection. But here's the turning point, beautiful one. Venus in the first house doesn't have to mean your worth is tied to the spotlight. It can mean your presence is what turns the light on in others. You don't need to perform your value. You already are valuable before anyone even looks your way. Let me give you a metaphor, okay? So having me so that you can really understand this in you, okay? Having Venus in the first house can feel like being beautifully dressed, like a beautifully dressed mannequin in a store window, okay? Everyone stops to admire you. Some even long for you, but no one opens the door. No one asks your name. You're seen, but not met. And the tragedy is, after a while, you start mistaking admiration for affection and attention for acknowledgement. But you're not a mannequin, you're a mirror. You were never meant to be static beauty on display. You were meant to reflect worth back to yourself first, so the world could respond to what's real, not what you've rehearsed. So let me give you some practices, some tools, because this is where I'm different than everyone else. I want to help you move through this energy, transmute this energy, right? So let's work on unmasking a little bit, just a little bit, right? So you're going to need about 2 to 5 minutes, okay? And try this after watching or during the time that you're journaling, okay? So I'd like for you to stand in front of the mirror. And this is not to fix anything, right? But this is to meet your eyes. I want you to look at yourself in the eye, right? And then I want you to place one hand over your heart and the other on your solar plexus, which is um, above your belly button, okay? And then I want you to breathe deeply into your body and say aloud to the mirror, to yourself. I want you to say this. I release the performance. I return to my presence. Being seen is safe when I am seeing myself first. Okay? And then I want you to stay there and I want you to notice what thoughts or tensions in your body arise. Okay? Like, is your chest getting tighter? Is your throat closing up? Like, notice what's coming up. Okay? And stay with them. All right? Let the truth rise, not the mask. Okay? Now, you can end and sit with this for a minute and notice what's coming up when you say this. Okay? And then this ends by gently placing both hands on your face. Okay? Like you're cupping your face and whisper, I am more than what they say and what they see. I am what I choose to be. Now, this simple steps to take or ritual, call it whatever you want, this retrains your nervous system to feel safe being witnessed without needing to be perfect, pleasing, or palatable. Okay? So I want you to keep doing this practice. This will help you a lot. All right? Having Venus in the first house, you have to ask yourself, when did your body become a performance? So let me just say this. There comes a moment, and it's often early, even quietly, when your body stops being yours. Maybe it was when someone complimented you just a little too closely, or when you learned you got more praise when you looked a certain way, or maybe when you were told how lucky you were to be attractive. And something inside you whispered, don't mess this up. Because for Venus in the first house, the body becomes a performance. Not because you're vain, but because at some point you realized your body was your value. So you start curating yourself like a brand. The hair, the skin, the smile. the tone of voice that soothes, the outfit that earns approval, the weight that keeps the peace, the silence that keeps you safe. Even your posture becomes a practice in palatability. And every time you alter your truth to preserve desirability, your body absorbs it. It starts holding the tension in your shoulders, the shame in your belly, the grief in your throat, the exhaustion in your jaw, because performing is exhausting, even when you become so good at it that people call it grace. And Venus in the first house can look like struggling with body images or body image, even when others call you beautiful. It can also look like feeling like you need to be on all the time. It can also look like associating rest with invisibility. It can also look like equating physical desirability with emotional safety, right? So as long as I'm desired, I'm safe. It could also look like fearing aging, not just because of age itself, but because of what you think you'll lose when beauty fades. But let me tell you the truth, beautiful one. Your body is not a billboard. Your beauty is not a promise you owe anyone. You do not have to shrink to be loved. Venus in the first house isn't here to perform. She's here to occupy, to return to the body, not as a decoration, but as a temple. And when you stop curating yourself to meet outside standards, when you stop betraying your body just to belong, that, beautiful ones, that's when you become magnetic again. Because nothing radiates like a woman or a man who's no longer performing. Now, there's a moment in the Venus journey where everything changes. It's the moment you realize your radiance is not an offering, it's a boundary. Because when Venus in the first house is unhealed, your glow becomes bait. You shine so you'll be chosen. You soften so you'll be safe. You silence yourself so the room stays comfortable. But when Venus is healed, she reclaims. Your glow is no longer a strategy, it's a signal. And it says, I'm home in myself. I'm not looking for approval, I'm anchoring truth. The Venus that's aligned in the first house becomes a force field, not a performance. You no longer attract attention that's rooted in projection, and you magnetize recognition rooted in resonance. So, what could this look like in real life? Let's start with you wear what you love, not what's expected. Or how about you rest even when there's pressure to perform? Or maybe you take up space without apology. Or you could speak with embodied softness, not to be agreeable, but because you feel safe being true. Or maybe you allow your beauty to evolve because your value was never in a fixed version of you. Your beauty stops being bait when it becomes truth. And that truth, it's felt in your body, in your voice, in the way people respond when you no longer dim your light to make them comfortable. So let's help that Venus get aligned. Let's help that Venus heal. Okay. Let's do some somatic and some steps to take. Okay. To return to your radiance. Now, this is a practice of energetic hygiene, your nervous system safety, and being spiritually sovereign. Okay. You're going to need a candle or a small mirror. You can do either one. Either a piece of fabric that you really, really find attractive that you like, or a garment you feel beautiful in. And then a space where you won't be interrupted for at least 5 to 10 minutes. Okay. Now, I want you to prepare your space. So you're going to light the candle, or if you chose the mirror, you're going to put the mirror before you. Okay. You're going to take a few grounding breaths. Just take deep breaths in, pay attention to your breathing. Take a few of those. Okay. And then as you're doing that, I want you to place your hands on your body wherever you feel safe and present. Okay. Then I want you to speak, and I want you to say, I am reclaiming my resonance, my radiance. My body is not bait. My beauty is not for barter. I am safe to shine in truth. I am safe to shine in truth. Okay? Then I want you to, as you're doing this, gently sway and stretch. Just move as you're breathing. Touch your skin, not to change it, but to come home to it. Okay, this is signaling you're safe in your body. All right, let your movements be slow and sacred and enough. Okay, then once you've taken a few minutes doing this and you're feeling safe, then I want you to say, I am beautiful because I am sovereign. My radiance is mine to hold, not theirs to take. Okay? Then I want you to let the candle burn down, or when you decide to blow it out, when you're ready, blow it out with gratitude. Okay? And if using a mirror, if that's what you've decided, then say a final phrase as you meet your own gaze. The final phrase would be, this is who I am, and I choose her now. Or, this is who I am, and I choose him now. Okay? Now, Venus in the first house as a sovereign energy, right? Imagine a woman who walks into a room and doesn't need to announce herself. That's a sovereign energy. Why? Because your energy already did announce you. You didn't need to say anything. Okay? Not because she's loud, not because she's styled perfectly, but because she's fully in her body. Okay? This is what it looks like. She's the kind of woman who wears red lipstick not to attract attention, but because it reminds her she's alive. She's not wearing that red lipstick for anybody but herself. That's sovereignty. Okay? She doesn't explain her boundaries, she embodies them. Right? She doesn't apologize for her presence. She inhabits it. Right? People notice her. Of course they do. But what they notice isn't just her beauty, it's her being. She radiates not from effort, but from integration. And if you were to compliment her, she wouldn't deflect or self-depreciate. She'd smile softly and say, oh, thank you. I love how I feel today. Not out of arrogance, but out of alignment. That's the Venus in the first house that's healed. That's the one that's sovereign. No longer using the body as a mask or a lure, but as a living altar. You're the temple, the presence, the power, and permission. And the truth is, this woman, she's not out there somewhere. She's in you. Even this male, he's not out there. He's in you, waiting to be chosen. Not by them, but by you. Now, beautiful one, let me leave you with this. You were never meant to shrink into someone else's vision of beauty. You were never meant to wear your body like a billboard or offer your glow as a gift for their comfort. You were never meant to smile through the ache of being misunderstood. just to be kept. You were born radiant, and that radiance was never meant to be bartered. It was meant to be anchored. Because Venus in the first house, she isn't here to teach you how to be desirable. She's here to remind you, I am already enough. Before the makeup, before the mirror, before the world reflects me back. I am not here to perform. I am here to be. And when you reclaim that, when you stop performing and start embodying, your nervous system calms. Your voice deepens. Your presence expands. You stop trying to earn your place and you just start becoming the place where truth lands, where love rests, and where beauty remembers itself. That is the gift of the Venus in the first house. You're not here to be seen. You're here to be felt. And if this landed for you, if you understood this, if you're reclaiming your body, your worth, your radiance, there's more waiting for you. You got to explore the soul's path. My North Node series, where we dive into your karmic purpose and why your soul came here to grow. And also, I just finished the Pluto series. So watch the Pluto series, Pluto Through the Houses, to understand the shadow you've inherited and the power you're reclaiming. Or if you want to see my tarot, and there's things going on, we have vibration going on in there, we got manifestation going on to there, tune into that. I do that every Tuesday and Thursday for Sacred Sync. It's short, it's intuitive messages, it's to help you align with your timeline. Okay, this isn't just a Venus journey. Remember, it's a remembering of all that you are across lifetimes, across lineage and timelines. And your next becoming, it begins with a single choice: to stop chasing and start receiving.